Greetings and welcome to a Friday edition of the Shotgun Start. It is August 22nd. Andy, how we doing?
Brendan, I'm doing okay. I'm sleep deprived. Had an unexpected late night at in the emergency room last night, and just picking up the pieces today.
Everyone okay?
Everybody's okay.
So
we're wondering what caused the alert, and we're contemplating whether it might be the most expensive case of struggling to get a fart out of all time.
It's just for your 5-year-old dog.
Yes.
Not for you or your wife. Just so I don't think we clarified that who was in the ER. just so we know. All right.
We aren't sure what caused it, but
Yes.
there was quite a substantial amount of relief after passing gas. And but that was then we were there for 4 more hours, and testing everything. So not a fun situation, but we're through it, and we're moving forward.
I was just going to complain about the Browns being already tabbed to have the number 1 pick on August 20th. I didn't have to be in the ER overnight. I was traumatized by my kids turning on ESPN show last night as we're going to hanging out after dinner, and on the screen is Arch Manning with the Browns logo and then number 1 pick. They're already mock drafting us. I don't think Arch Manning's even going pro. So that's building the enthusiasm before we've played a game. And then number 2 was Lenora Sellers going to PJ's Jets. So 1-2, August 20th. Don't even have to play the games. We don't even need to care. Just talk to me in April when the draft comes around.
Andy, isn't it great that you're just out of this? You don't have to partake in this anymore.
Is he?
Well, am I out of it? It's a good question, because if anything my football fandom has taught me is that you're never out of anything. So what would be the most devastating outcome if I was in it?
Yes.
And didn't know I was in it going into the season.
That would be the worst possible outcome.
The stakes and pain could go are much higher and could be much more acute for you right now. So, but we've all been there. Number 1 pick gone bad. We've all done that whole deal, but we're not there yet with you guys. We're not going to speak that into existence like we have the Bridgeman winning the FedEx Cup, which is in play.
How about the Super Bowl golf? Kicking off, and we got the Bridgeman and Nick Taylor on the board, hanging around, just hanging around.
That's 1-2 for worst outcomes for the tour, and they were both 4 under earlier. They're hanging around. I think Brentley. Somebody texted me like this would be the biggest SGS manifestation since Sabatini winning a silver medal. Like this, like manifesting the absurd, the insane happening. But we need the Bridgeman. He cometh. He was 4 under early. He's in the mix, which would be fabulous in Atlanta.
God, the Sabatini thing feels like so long ago.
It was 2021, I want to say. Right? Summer.
It was so long ago, but it was so incredible. That was the most incredible outcome maybe ever in sports.
Shot 63, right? Didn't he shot the lowest round of the week there? God, need the Bridgeman to play it out. They're doing preferred lies in Atlanta, which is just appropriate. They got lift clean in place for the Super Bowl. I don't even know if it's rained that much in Atlanta. I'm not, I didn't get reports of that. I didn't do any investigating.
It was raining on the Creator Classic.
Oh, that's right. Did you watch that?
No.
Okay.
No, I was tied up. Got some stuff going on at my house, which has been just a disaster. So I did not have time to tune into the.
I didn't see it either.
Brad Dahlke won.
Dahlke, yeah.
What a surprise! Former USAM finalist beat up on a bunch of YouTubers.
Yeah, well, he's a YouTuber now.
What?
No, he's not, PJ. He's not.
He did say, he made a statement that he will not take his cameras and will accept any and all sponsor exemptions that anybody wants to give him.
Oh, good.
So
he's discourse is
dipping his toes back in.
Good. That's good.
Wait,
so
who
preferred
said this?
lies. Dahlke. So he won't do the Horvat. Was it Horvat that
yes,
did that?
It was Horvat.
Okay. I can't keep them all straight. Short Game Kane was one of them. I don't know who that is. Anyways, in preferred lies for the first
Short
round.
Game
Bridgeman,
King.
Short Game King, Gabby Golf Girl. It's good. Good
The
stuff. What?
I gotta say, on serious coverage here,
Yeah.
The tournament, these guys, the Bridgemans, the Nick Taylors, they gotta feel like new lease on life at this event.
Because they're all zeroed out.
The last few years, like if you're in the 20 to 30, you enter this tournament like 10 shots behind the best player in golf for a given year. It's like,
what's the point? You're just like a couple extra $100,000 here or there, shuffling deck chairs,
like,
essentially.
What am I doing? And now you have these guys where it's like, oh, I only have to beat 29 guys this week. And like, if we do just like, we're going to do the Brooks math. This is the way. If you're a good amateur player and you struggle in state AMs or state AM qualifiers or even club championship qualifiers, this is how you should think about this. Half the field is going to play bad. It is like just the way it works. So even if you're one of the worst players in said field, if you play well, you're down to 14 players that you have to beat this week.
Yeah.
Is and the Bridgeman one amongst those 14 players, there's probably a lot of guys that struggle to get across the line. I'm not going to name names about who those people could be, but there are going to be guys that struggle to get across the line. So maybe we could cross off like 3 or 4 more guys. And now we're down to like, I have to beat 9 guys in a given week. Do you know how freeing that must be in comparison to a full field tour event where you're like, I have to beat 140 freaking people. I have to beat, and then if you do the same math, it's down to 70, down to, you're beating 50 people or 40 people, whatever, in a given week. If you do the same law of application this week, you literally have to beat like 9 people. If I'm Jacob Bridgeman, I feel phenomenal. If I'm Nick Taylor, I'm like, this is amazing. This is the greatest thing ever.
And you've got like 10 of maybe 15 of the top 30 players in the world playing in Michigan, the Cardinal at St. John's, right? Don't we have 15 top 30 there?
Talor.
Maybe the best player in the world.
Greatest player ever, Talor Gooch.
Talor Gooch. I mean, hey, I made a serious point on Monday about that with Scotty. I'm not asterisking any Scotty stuff, but when you get to these 30 and 50 man fields, it would be nice to have the full allotment of challengers, and they don't with Rahm and Bryson gone. So I think that's exposed a little bit at these really small events. Anyway.
You know what I love? I love when you just you're such a professional at this job that you naturally segue to Brian Rolapp.
Yeah. I don't know if I naturally segued, but that's fine.
It'd be nice to have the full field of challengers. And what we learned yesterday is that probably ain't happening anytime soon.
The Rolapp got the rollout at the, God, that's so bad. I didn't plan that, I promise you. He got the rollout on Wednesday at East Lake, did a press conference, totally different approach than Big J, who usually had the comms person up there calling on individuals and very probably selected. Rolapp just goes, he's just pointing at people around the room. You. It brought some interesting folks we don't normally hear from asking questions.
Oh, yeah.
Some outlets that are, I don't know, it may exist. I'm not sure. But he's just letting it rip.
Pro Golf Weekly was one that I was amused
Pro
by.
Golf Now? As opposed to Pro Golf Later. Pro Golf Now was an outlet. But that was great. I love it. I mean, Jay's not doing anything like that. And he's just calling. He's taking them all on. I wouldn't say he was, substantive in a big way. Some people, I said that it feels like everybody's tweeting like Magic Johnson. Like, oh, the command of come on. Like the command of the room felt calm and confident, projected of whatever this or that. Like, I mean, it's a press conference, whatever. But it's a good start.
I think if we should take anything away from the last, 5 years in golf, is that talk is cheap. And I think that you can walk away from the Rolapp press conference generally like excited about some of the things he said.
I liked his approach. He just, yeah.
But we've seen that this web of the PGA Tour is maybe one of the most tangled up, conflicted, too many cooks in the kitchen run organizations in the world. And like so much so to where, you know what I loved about the press conference? Jay getting players and partners in his intro. And then Rolapp talking about how, the players and the partners, but who is these great partners of ours, which the partners, they're energizing. The partners are a lot of times one of the biggest issues on the tour. And that's why we're playing in Atlanta in August. Is it because of the partners? It's why we're playing in Memphis in August because of the partners.
Maybe he meant like
it just like illuminated that like the first order of business, players and partners.
He was putting fans first in a lot of his listing.
Fans in there, but players and partners came first.
He did players and partners. I need to know more about these partners. I guess RBC signed on again for both their events. I know that was up in the air. They're humming on the partner front. They're signing everybody back up.
Well, they got the best sales team in the world. We've talked about this. The Comcast Business Tour Top 10 exists. It's the greatest sale in the history of sports sponsorships.
We need a sponsorship for the Future Competitions Committee. Anybody want to come on board for that?
How about the Future Competitions Committee just being effectively the pack?
Pretty good.
It was
pretty good. Let's get to it. I look. It was a positive press conference. I think there's an element of everybody's going to praise him simply for being not Jay.
Yes.
And so does that mean good or bad? I'm not sure. It's just not Jay. And I don't know. I don't want to go in the weeds, but can I ask you, maybe I'll ask you a question. Can I ask you a question? PJ, get into this.
Of course, it's your podcast.
On balance, we'll talk about this whenever he leaves. Has Jay been like a failure of a commissioner? We don't need to, we could do this like 2 minutes.
So my general belief is I think he took over a pretty cushy situation. I think that I think this is a complex topic.
It is. Maybe we save it for when he leaves, but
is this going to matter 16 months from now? We got a long runway.
Right.
I think on a whole, the fact that professional golf was divided under his rule makes it a failure. The fact that he allowed a relationship with one of the greatest players of all time, one of the most beloved players of all time, however batshit crazy he is,
Phil Mickelson.
However, how difficult it is, however, like awful to deal with the guy is, however, to allow a relationship with one of the almost Mount Rushmore, probably you could say at the time Mount Rushmore characters in the game of in the PGA Tour lens of golf. I'm talking from like 1980 on. Allow him to run into the arms of the Saudi Arabians was a cataclysmic disaster and allow them to then pull the game apart. Now, I think over the last 2 years, the discourse around Jay and what he's done since the initial 18 months of LIV has been extraordinarily unfair. And it's like a bunch of people that didn't have takes when it was happening, kicking a guy while he's down. But he actually, I think, has done a really good job in the last 2 years. And So it's complex. I think like overarching, if you wanted to just say, be very black and white, and I think you say failure because of what happened.
Yeah.
Not taking the call.
Right. I think that's the biggest.
And then running into the arms after like that whole saga.
Yeah.
Could have just been avoided by just being like, you know what? Let's have a conversation. And we're probably at a state of like the tour has all this cash, all the players stay, and there's some, happy medium of where we're at now. So because he didn't take the call, which was, it's like anything, when somebody calls who has a lot of money or has a lot of power, or like just generally your responsibility, your responsibility as a head of an organization is to listen and evaluate and continue to listen, because the more you listen, the more you learn and you uncover, and the more you talk about something, like this is the classic, the Malcolm Gladwell wrote in the one book of like Winston Churchill having one meeting with Adolf Hitler and thinking he was a good guy, right? The thing here is like, if you have 30 conversations with the Saudi Arabians because you pick up the phone, we're probably not where we are today, where we have, Brooks Koepka giving a great quote about matching up against DJ. What was the quote?
Matt Vicenzi, who works for LIV or writes for LIV, tried to get him to play hype man. So the only time Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka have played each other in match play professionally was the Dell in 2022. DJ beat Brooks to advance to semifinals. I asked Brooks if he owes DJ one this week. Brooks' response, I don't owe anybody anything. He doesn't owe me anything. I think it's just a good matchup. Not exactly the hard sell. Not exactly leaning into the narrative of vengeance. But I'm not sure Brooks has much to sell anymore over there. I think he's done.
So I would love to hear you guys' thoughts as I.
No, I don't. No, I don't want to revise history here. Like he's a bad communicator. He still is. Then we went at him, and he was failed in many micro ways. It felt like on balance, I'm not sure you could call it a failure. The game is divided. Feels like they've won. He was innovative. He was agile in terms of like they weren't always good ideas, starting strokes, pip, things like that, but he was willing and innovative. I don't want to revise history. Like he was, but all commissioners, Manfred gets just massacred, it seems like, every time he opens his mouth. Goodell is somehow, he was just I mean, didn't Bill Simmons get fired from ESPN for like Goodell was like a total villain and punching bag for about 8 years there. He's kind of sold, but this comes with the gig. I would say Jay was not a good communicator, but and by the way, he's made like an insane amount of money. If you want to call him whatever you want to call him, I think you're entitled to, and he's probably fine. Sounds like the golden parachute. The rumors of that are just, the numbers are insane that he's taken on the way out. But I feel like I'm happy for him. He's a weight off his shoulders. He's just bouncing around. Doesn't have to deal with this shit anymore. Still getting paid for it. Feels like in a trying time. PJ, what's your verdict if we have to give one?
I think on the binary, not taking the phone call is the biggest negative, and it has to be a failure. But I actually think, as Andy said, in the last 2 years, after the Rahm thing, outside of the Rahm thing, the talent retention could have been a lot worse, and he did a lot and moved some stuff around to make sure it wasn't, which I do think you have to begrudgingly give him credit for.
Yeah, they came out okay. I don't know if that's to his credit, but anyways, I feel like Rolapp is getting a big lift right now for being just not Jay. But he did.
Well, that's gonna happen anytime everywhere. Somebody gets into one of these jobs.
Would probably speak to him needing to come on and affect change quickly, in my opinion. Like this now is the time you have the highest approval rating. the most power. You're not been picked apart, or you don't have a bunch of enemies yet, and people are probably scared of you and want to, curry favor with you. So he's saying we're going to be aggressive. We're going to impact change. That was the headline at every outlet that wrote up the press conference. And the biggest one so far, we could do the minor stuff. Rollback has no response. I don't know enough about the issue. LIV not met with anyone from the PIF.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I think the rollback, like if you were a rollback supporter, to me, with what he's done for baseball, I think the guy that you go hard on, like, this is why you have to roll back everything, is Theo Epstein from that committee.
So Theo Epstein is on the Future Competitions Committee. What the tour needed is another committee, another, they have 180 meeting rooms, or what do they have at the Global Home, which, they have a moat and a bridge. I think that's where you get the Bridgeman activation in, the effective Bridgeman activation if he wins your FedEx Cup. On this Future Competitions Committee, it's headed by Tiger Woods. He's the chairman. Joining it are Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Camilo Villegas, Maverick McNeely, and Keith Mitchell. Then there's three, non-player business folks. Joe Gorder, who's the Valero guy and chairman of Enterprises, John Henry, Fenway Sports Group, and Theo Epstein, who's with Fenway Sports Group, as Andy just noted. I was told, I think Theo was one of the guys that was driving for, like, we want our cut of supplying the talent to the majors. And I don't know if that's unsubstantiated, wholly, but Bob Herrick wrote it up. I think in Eamon's article, he wrote it up. He said, so other than creaming off a percentage of the revenue generated by the majors, and this is Eamon's article, and make no mistake, the tour is coming for its share of that. The best, so Eamon's right. It's percolating out there. That's definitely a way to start, the five families. 5 families going to the mattresses. I don't know. Is Rolapp and Theo going to go to Augusta and say,
I mean, this is what Seth Waugh talked about on his departure.
Right. Well,
you get the private equity folks in.
You're using all our members to put on your major championships. Would be.
Listen. I want to be clear. I think their argument makes sense. On its face. Like, is this good for golf doing this? No.
I think, like,
is there an argument to be had? Yes.
In a boardroom, it makes sense.
Yeah.
In execution, I think it's, the master says, okay, none of your members are allowed to play if you want this money. I think all the members resign their membership and still want to go for majors. I don't know. I think it gets prickly real fast.
But this is kind of what I was sitting watching the USAM on vacation, thinking to myself, is like, I honestly don't know how much golf. I think golf needs stars for, like, mainstream appeal, but for its niche core constituency, like, if the Masters said, no, you know what, we're not interested in this deal, and they just invited the 80 best AMs, are people not going to watch the Masters in April?
We are getting into some crazy hypotheticals.
I
think we've seen the majors, like, bend over backwards to make sure they have, like, LIV guys and the best stars. Not bend over backwards, but make efforts to do so. I'm not sure
it's just a real question I would have. If they just get to a point where it's like, would people turn off the Masters? Is a great hypothetical question.
It's Niall Donegan instead of Rory.
The other aspect of it
Let's talk
is if they try and do this.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a who crosses the picket line situation from the tour.
Yeah.
Who says, like, you know what? Like, in the sense of Rory, I mean, he basically said this is all I'm playing for at this point. Her majors.
Yes. I mean, I would say
Justin Rose. Do you think Justin Rose at age 45, who's got this RV built for performance and doing everything he can and desperately wants to, if the tour says we tried to squeeze him for money and now we're at this point, do you think Justin Rose is not gonna cross the picket line and go play the Masters? I think it's fascinating.
If anything, the last 6 years have taught us, I don't think there's especially like a grand lock ironclad union where guys won't leave for own personal interest. Or you know,
what gets interesting too is say no hat Pat gets him and Xander, they're not doing it, and then the Masters starts going down the list and they get deeper, and it's like guy who's 110th on the in the world.
Well, I mean,
who's never played a Masters is thinking I may never play a Masters. Like I want to go play a Masters.
Taylor Gooch just made like $800 million. He's like number 60 on the tour, and he's all of a sudden like the richest guy 5 years later. Yeah, it's interesting. No,
and then all the LIV guys are in. This is a fun hypothetical.
Oh well, it's an interesting. It could get prickly really fast, but Eamon writes it unequivocally. Make no mistake, they are coming for their cut of major championships. I think Don Rea. Well, I wouldn't want to sit across the negotiating table from Don Rea. He's gonna send him back and roll that back with his tail between his legs. So that was part of it. Was the rollback. LIV haven't met.
Personal opinion on it. There is no personal opinion. I'm the president of the PGA of America, right? I've got 31,000 members that are listening to my every word, and I'm proud to represent them.
Well, here's my question.
I was a little slow. I wasn't ready for that.
Maybe
they
the
get
tour
to Don.
Yeah.
But Don is the president not only of the PGA of America, where he has his major and his Ryder Cup, but he's also the president of these PGA Tour players too, because they're all members.
Technically.
So I don't actually think the PGA Tour can ask the PGA Championship for money because they're members of both, so they can go walk in and do whatever they want.
All right, gentlemen. Welcome to Congressional Country Club. Today, that persistent championship testing rain is settling in.
I forgot about
It's one of those days.
God, I'm ready for your interview. I forgot about that. I mean, maybe Andy White's. We've been told he's going around strong arming people. Maybe he sits across.
Man, we sure are spitballing, aren't we, Rich?
Did you just say this?
Yes, that's exactly why I brought him up. Man, we sure are spitballing here, aren't we, Rich? He's apparently just going around trying to strong arm media members into this and that, but maybe he could do the same with Fred Ridley. So yeah, that's part of the Eamon article, part of the Theo and the future competitions committee. He had no position on Rolapp, nothing with LIV. Sounds dead essentially. Haven't talked to anyone with PIF on TV. He said this isn't about incremental change. I think Josh Carpenter asked him. This is about as significant and aggressive change as we can get for the good. So we'll be as aggressive as we can. I don't know if that means they'll be aggressive. It's just as aggressive as they can on improving TV product.
I've been meaning to bring this up. This might be a good time to bring it up. It's Friday. We don't really we have concepts of a plan of this episode. We're
way off.
We're way off. This might be a big topic. Yeah. We might want to talk about our partner first, who keeps us really comfortable, cozy, keeps us, it's hot. I'm in the middle of a heat wave here. Once the temperature warms up this afternoon, I'm going to be slipping on.
Cool polo.
Beach Ratty Sport.
There we go.
There we go. Wearing a little Beach Ratty Sport around, keeping cool, having great. It's like the best sport fabric you can find. It doesn't feel like that, like straight out of like the factory, like you smell like the fabric. It is like they thought long and hard about this material, and I think it's the best sport material in the game. So it is that I love their sport gear for when the temperature's hot. It's obviously August, but you know what? They also have great layers, and we're getting close. There's rumors we might be doing a best day of the year sale because that's coming up.
Interesting. Best day of the year. All right. I love that. SGS 30 is the sale now. You get 30% off. Best day of the year sale may just be Friday Pro Shop. I don't think is that a Dratty collaboration?
No.
Okay. All right. So use your SGS 30 with bdratty.com. It is getting, maybe there will be a crispness in the air. I need a Don Rea essay on the temperatures turning crisp. And if that's the case, you get an Andy hoodie, you get a vest, the everyday vest. We're almost back to everyday vest weather, which just has me over the moon. Use SGS 30 at bdratty.com for your cool fabrics, your layers as September approaches. What was the meaty hypothetical or the big can of worms you're about to open?
So we talked about Rolapp, right? And he said he's talking about the television product.
Yeah,
Television product, you're talking about reaching fans, which is encouraging, like huge seismic change. With the Cubs in a situation where they're going to make the playoffs, and probably, going toe to toe now with the Brew Crew here this week. Luckily stole some games from that scummy franchise up north, but as an out of towner who watches baseball now from out of town, I've spent a lot of time with the MLB app, and it is like as good as it gets to me. Somebody who buys, NBA League Pass, NFL Sunday Ticket in my life, the MLB app is freaking unreal. And to me, if you want to talk about like reworking the whole fan experience for PGA Tour golf, the MLB app is like where you should be staring straight in the eyes. I know PJ, I know you use it a lot. It has awesome archival content. It has awesome original content. It has awesome written content. It's got the best, way to watch games without watching them, like in terms of like a shot tracer type functionality. And when I contrast it to what PGA Tour Live is, it is like, I couldn't think of something that's more worlds apart than the investment that Major League Baseball has made into their fan experience, in terms of trying to watch 162 games a year, and where the PGA Tour is with like what they provide diehard fans. And I think like the caveat I will put here is that they're swimming in completely different fan number waters.
Yeah, I think the tour gets better TV ratings than the MLB. I don't know if that's like the decisive.
Well, like an individual MLB game, or if you aggregate the MLB ratings over
well, it's a lot of inventory. Yeah,
12 games a day.
Yeah,
the number's huge.
The tour app's gotten like light years better than it used to be. But I mean, here's where you get $1.5 billion of some money to invest in, and the players, quite honestly, have taken a giant chunk of, like, if you talk players first, right, with the purses going up and everything like that, like the ability to invest in an app or the ability to, like, that is negatively impacted when there's, number 25 Jacob Bridgeman is making $20 million a year, 10 million, or whatever he's going to make. Now you have the strategic sports money. And what you heard from Rolapp was like this complete and entire emphasis on product, like total focus on product. I think that's what the fan competitions committee, or future competitions committee is for. He talked about, quote, the optimal competitive model that enhances the PGA Tour's value to fans first, players, and then partners. Third, he said the events need to matter. You need to understand as a fan what the stakes are. If this person wins, this person loses. If this person finishes here on the leaderboard, what does it mean and how does it tie to the postseason? We, of course, know this has been like an issue that's vexed tour-specific golf really since it decided to create a playoff system, right? Like, what does it mean to come in seventh, and what does it mean vis-a-vis the rest of the year? And he did, he said, his three things are parity, scarcity, and simplicity. said the tour has better parity than any sport in the world. And that speaks to the razor thin margins between the Bridgeman and Scotty Scheffler. Like maybe the Bridgeman can get it done. And whereas you go into a game with, Bills, Browns, I think I have a likely scenario of the outcome, or, Thunder versus whoever, Jazz, that we know what's happening here. And he suggested, in terms of parity, the tour has it as well as anything. But on the scarcity and simplicity, what you're talking about with the app and where's the money go and like what is focus for, what is the clarity? I'll add that one. It's always been a little murky. And apparently this is what the committee will focus on.
Yeah, I mean, it was encouraging to see. Peach, do you have thoughts on this?
I think the scarcity thing is where I have questions.
Perked up.
Yeah, is where, like, what are we? How much more scarce are we going here? Are we cutting down from 40 events to cutting even more? Are we going with fewer full fields? Like, where is the scarcity coming from? I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they have so many events. Obviously, we make fun of events that are just completely irrelevant and are, the Mexicos or the 3Ms of the world. But like, I don't know. I think the opportunity to get eyeballs on a consistent basis, whereas the NFL has scarcity because it only runs for 4 months a year, but there's 256 games, not including the playoffs. Like, there's a lot of inventory. It just happens in a condensed amount of time, to the point where how are you crafting the PGA Tour schedule to get to that point?
I think like one of the issues with you hit on the condensed period of time is that golf is kind of like baseball in the sense of like, if you count 4 rounds over the 45 tournaments, it's like a lot, it's more days than not. You turn on the TV and golf's on in your life, which is like a nice thing. But like, to me, like they're maybe the biggest issue and this is where their technology doesn't allow, like, it does not allow me to become like, I live and die by Jacob Bridgeman's results, because like, what am I going to do? Go through and look at all of his shots on Shot Tracer? Like, I can't watch. Like, it keeps coming back to the crux of like, how do I get to the point? Like, one of the great, in bringing this back to the MLB app, like one of the greatest things about the MLB app is that if I miss a game, I can watch this 8 to 10 minute condensed game. That is, it's not like your SportsCenter highlights that are a minute. It is like, I've got like a pretty good idea.
Everything of consequence that could possibly happen ends up in that.
I have a good idea of what happened. And like, to me, like, could we get, like, everybody's always like, oh, we need every shot of every player. Could you get me to a point where I could watch like the big moments in a guy's round? Yeah. Like, could we get to that point where it's the end of the day and it's like, I click on a player and I've got an idea. Like, it's not the Masters where, like, this is one of the great things about the Masters and where it's at is like the Masters. I click on, Rory McIlroy, and I can watch while I'm out on the golf course covering the event. Maybe I'm following Scotty Scheffler. I come back in and I can see exactly what happened in Rory McIlroy's round and analyze, like, and think about what happened. Like, that cultivates a really deep connection to the tournament there.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The way the tour works now is like, it just like, it's rudderless. Like, if I don't tune into even if I tune into coverage, I'm probably not going to get to see the vast majority of most people's shots. So like, how do we incrementally bridge that gap? To me, is like, if you want to talk about like a big product push, like, can I get to a point where after every round, I have a general sense of how this guy, and it's not looking at data golf and being like, oh, he was plus, like, I want to see the shots.
I think that's probably small potatoes. He can do that. He'll focus on that and get it. We can do that if he wants. I think what we're talking about here is cutting a dramatic number of events and cards and members down is what it feels like when he talks about scarcity. And that's a bigger fight. And it feels like he's going to take it on early. And maybe that's what this committee is for, because it gives you cover of like, oh, well, we all collaborated. There were 6 players on it. But it seems to me like he is going to quickly come for making some dramatic changes, and a lot of it cutting or focusing on product that means fewer tournaments.
It would have been amazing if somebody asked him like straight up the Ricky Fowler conundrum and what he thought of it.
Well, he roots for TV ratings, and Ricky brings TV ratings.
That is true.
That's probably his answer.
That is true.
But that's not. It runs counter to what he said about creating the most competitive tour.
It's fair.
And that's one of the things that is hard to slice with golf is that if you want the most competitive product, Jordan Spieth ain't in the signature events next year. But if you root for TV ratings, you want Jordan Spieth in the signature events next year. And this is where it gets tricky with like how you judge success. And it seemed like to me, he judges success through TV ratings. Is that the best, or can you do other things that would yield bigger TV ratings down the line?
So then are you seeing this as because you mentioned like the players and like, all right, so I want a condensed Bridgeman round in 3 minutes or whatever to figure out what's going on. Do you see that as we need to market the players better? Or is it, how are you creating, because somebody brought up, like, did you hate when the Patriots won all the time? And he was like, no, because they were great for TV ratings. Like, how are you getting, obviously, so Scotty is the Patriots in this scenario, but how are you getting other players to that point? How are you marketing them to where you have more than one needle? Because the Patriots, as good as they were never the only needle. They were everybody's villain, but they weren't the only thing that made the machine go.
I think you got to look at the tour has this policy of like, we do everything, right? Like why would we work with, so-and-so? We can make it better, right? With and it goes to like their content arm. But like when I think about being a fan of the NFL, and PJ, you probably know this more intimately than anybody, having worked for an NFL franchise in their media business and their media arm. But like, to me, one of the great things about being a fan of the NFL is like, there is so much access granted to so many people to players that I can understand what is going on. And like, I can go as deep as I want to go because it allows you to go deep. Like, my big question to the tour is like, what do you do? Like, what about your organization do you do that allows someone that wants to be invested get really invested? And like, what you do at this point is pretty bad, because it is like, I think like some of the steps they've taken with like the docs that they've allowed Sean Martin to run with have been like really good versions of this. But like, some of this is also granting people outside access into these players and getting the players. And this is like one of the tough things with the setup of the tour. Like, the NFL players have to do this stuff. They are under contract. The tour players, it's like if you want access to a tour player, you have to go through their agent, and it ends up being like, well, like maybe we could do that, or like, no, it's not the right time. It's just a completely different world in terms of like how do I become a fan of a golfer is like something that I always struggle with as someone who watches golf all the time. Like, I think about this all the time. It's like, how does a common person become super invested in a specific player?
PJ?
I mean, I don't disagree. But then how do you get the PGA Tour to the point where they are the ones facilitating that content? Because like you said, they're not under contract. There's no like union or anything. Because that was always something that came up and still is with the NFL players. Like, they are, like, the union agrees that the quarterback has to speak X times a week. And like that is an agreed upon thing between the players and the league and the teams in the CBA. But like, the players, like, obviously some days they want to talk and guys know they have to talk. And then you have the outside, like, you know, people start their own podcasts or their own media arms or anything. And that obviously has worked out better for NBA and NFL players than it ever has in golf. But the, you know, speaking to the media X times a week or having access to these guys, like, that is a contractual obligation that the PGA Tour does not currently have.
Yeah. And like, I would look at, like, who are some players that are more popular than their play would suggest.
Yeah.
I would say Max Homa, Michael Kim, Joel Damon are great examples. Zach Blair, great examples of players that, like, outkick their performance in terms of popularity. And what do they all do? They put themselves out there and allow people in to a certain extent, or have allowed people in. And like, that to me is the issue with the tour right now, is that not enough players are going to go out of their way on their own accord to let people come in. And the back half of that is the tour is just a non-starter of, it's just like the players do whatever they want, right? So that to me is like, that's the huge issue in terms of like, why don't we have more marketable players?
Yeah, I mean, you outlined maybe 4 guys who might not be on the tour. That's more scarce.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If we're getting scarcity, like, no, we don't have room anymore for some of the, you know, if you're not playing, if you're even out kicking anything. It's interesting.
And I think, like, I you know, recent podcast guest Mason Howell wins the USAM. I get, you know, before the tournament's over, I get an outreach with the USGA. And this is the difference between like a governing body that doesn't have a media arm, right? And they say, hey, do you want to have Mason Howell on? And I'm like, yeah, that, or the winner on. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. We'll build a whole episode around that, right? And versus the tour, it's like, oh, the winner wins and he does the press conference, but every other appearance is state-run media.
Okay.
And like, what good does that do when it's, you know, it just, this is their mentality is we can do it better ourselves. And I mean, they have, you know, an organization that's actively acquiring independent media outlets and turning them state-run to grow their media arm and reach.
We're going off topic here, I think, on media stuff, but I found it interesting. I was told in Memphis there was 0 national media members there by the end of the tournament. In Baltimore, Doug Ferguson was there. I mean, I was walking around. That was it. And so you're ending up with, like, are you going to get the most interesting stuff when it's just rights holders and your own company? Is that enriching the text of, or the flavor of the entertainment product? I think, like, you're getting to a point where people like, peace. Like, if you want to cut the access, you want to cut all the interest, and it's just only company run stuff. I mean, this is a separate media discussion, and rights holder stuff, then you're probably gonna make a less interesting people and product.
But that's what Rolapp does, right? Like, that's how he got here. So that's on him to figure it out now. The NFL obviously has the local aspect, whereas, like, I don't know if the Baltimore banner is really dialed in as much as on Caves Valley as much as they are on the Ravens, obviously, and does their readership care. But you have to have some level of exterior coverage, or else this is never going to work.
This is the thing. If you're a fan of any sport, I know I just talked wax poetic about the MLB app. I go there for video. I go there for game coverage. If I'm going to read, I go to The Athletic. I go to ESPN. I go to bloggers. I go to people on Twitter that are independent experts on the sport. Like, this is not, nobody who's a fan like goes and digests NBA.com articles about like those are, it's just not authentic content. It is, and as much as you want to make it authentic, it's not. And like, this is where I think like the tour's media strategy over the years has been completely effed, is that they have done everything to close. They've tried pretty vociferously to close off, and then they look at what other people do well, and then they try and mimic it on their own. And the answer is, in like a lot of other sports, is to grant, and this is where individual franchises grant outside access, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is where the tour has to understand that granting access to outsiders has to be their lifeblood. You know, you have to be able to go on the grounds of a PGA Tour event and record an interview. Right now, you cannot, as an independent media outlet, go on the grounds. I've recorded interviews off grounds with players and then gotten rides with them in grounds. It makes my job a lot harder to do it. And this is like stuff that builds fans of players.
Yeah, I think we're in a different media discussion right now, but I think, you know, Lucas Glover's become pretty interesting because he's just taken to his own platform. I think Rory's spoken, and
that's a big part.
When Rory's spoken about having to do press a couple of times, he's like, look, I can just go to you guys directly, or I can go via social media or whatever directly. So I think that's a separate element. We're like, why do I need so-and-so here to interview me? Whether you're with the network or with the tour itself, or you're someone who's interesting and might make me look more interesting. No, I can just do it on my own.
But that's a good thing. If more guys actually went and did that, I would be pro that.
That's what Damon and Max and Michael Kim, a lot of what you're talking about.
I think that's great. How many guys are realistically going to do that on a consistent basis?
To me, like, as somebody who's run a media business now for 10 years, the most valuable day to have someone on site at a PGA Tour sanctioned event. Do you know what the most valuable day of the year to have someone on site at a PGA Tour event is?
Tuesday.
The rookies, a specific event. Players.
Oh, the rookies. Oh, gotcha.
The rookie. It's the only time. Think about this. They run 50 freaking events a year, or 45, and at one day at one event, they effectively offer up free reign of a group of players to a group of media. That's the only time that, outside of like press conferences, that the tour facilitates the opportunity for media to go create content with players. That's pathetic. And they wonder why people don't care what Jacob Bridgeman shoots today.
I think this is, if I'm being honest, going to be low on the future competition committee's priority list. I think it's a separate product issue that they definitely have to. That I think Rolapp is like a media brain. We'll think about. It's an interesting discussion, but I think, you know, it feels like he's coming to make some changes quickly. I thought, you know, I read a lot of different stuff. Joseph was awesome, just with some like cobbling. Joseph's bullish on what he heard about product. He said sports products aren't hard. You know, sports business isn't hard. Focus on the product. Take care of your fans and partners, and you're good. And so, like, it does feel like he's prioritizing the right stuff. The one was Eamon closed his article. He said the players who wrestled control of the PGA Tour in recent years are about to learn that they sunsetted a commissioner who was of the golf ecosystem and was historically answerable to them for a modern aggressive CEO who isn't. And yeah, that may be what's coming in terms of, you know, focus on simplicity, scarcity, product, whatever, how all these things tie together. It may, and I think he's got to do it now. He's got to do it soon-ish before he gets pecked to death with, you know, complainers and special interests. So that's, any other takeaways from the Rolapp stuff?
I think in general,
there was a lot. takeaway.
I think we talked about a lot of stuff, but I think like generally as a fan, that was a very encouraging press conference. And as we said, though, at the beginning, this is a very complex situation with a lot of, to steal your line, a lot of masters to serve.
But he feels like he has a better chance of like, I'm going to prioritize these masters real quick and maybe throw a few masters out of the room. I don't know. We'll see. Let's do some whip around stuff. Unsubstantiated rumor. When you talk about the players having power, I guess a proposal for the Tour Championship this week in front of the players was letting by or ranking in the FedEx Cup just pick your own tee time. Unsubstantiated. I'm pretty substantiated. Scotty, I'm going to go at 9:30, and that's fresh greens or whatever. It never got accepted. I think by the the players themselves. But
if that's a serious proposal,
sure that was discussed. Yes,
Rolapp is in a really difficult position to start from.
We're further gone than we even thought we were at this point.
How about that? If you had Scotty's like just done before the TV comes on, I was like, oh, I'm going I want to go off first. 7:30. Unsubstantiated rumor. Lucas Glover, whip around. Lucas Glover had some provocative takes on the Caves Valley. I've never in my 21 years heard the consensus from a field being unhappy with the golf course. I think he's suggesting everyone consensus didn't like it. I think it was pretty much everybody didn't really like Caves Valley, and it is a shame because it is a heck of a place. I feel sorry for the members that have to play that now because it's virtually unplayable. It's got some tee boxes. It's got some tee boxes that should be dug up tomorrow. It seems like a very lazy renovation. It's sad that's what people think is good golf and good golf course design. It would shock me if we go back, which is a shame. Spicy takes from Lucas Glover. Lazy renovation.
Listen.
They did it in 100 days. They were touting that.
It didn't cost a little bit of money.
Well, nothing there does. They do it big.
Surprisingly, a lot of breathless coverage on the golf course that I saw was just how immaculate and how amazing it was. Apparently, they didn't talk to Lucas Glover, but I guess that's what happens.
All the players hated it. I don't know. I mean, I think there was some element of like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like this was probably more averse to fair police types, like with some of those greens, slopes, and
I like the dissenting opinion.
Yeah.
Lucas Glover, just the radio show, just
letting it rip.
Lucas Glover's radio show. When we look back on this year, breakout star contender. We need to have an award show.
We'll do that. We could do that.
PJ, you think you can run with that?
Yeah, I think we can get some graphics cooked up. We can do an award show. You want to do an award show? We can do an award show.
Start spitballing on that one, PJ. Start spitballing on that one.
I will say, I mean, Don Raya could be a breakout star candidate.
Yes, absolutely.
Andy White's.
Should we get tuxes?
Look at God. Just lean into the gimmick. Elsewhere, LPGA, Aphrodite Dane, the U.S. girls junior, shot a 66. She co-leads. The junior winner, Aphrodite Dane, who's Canadian, the women's event up there, the Canadian Open or Canadian Women's Open up there. She's
great
tied for the lead. Aphrodite, absolutely. Yeah. On the DP World Tour, Thomas Aiken, there's like 10 guys tied, including Marcel Siem. But notably, Matty
Seamster's trying to get back into that Open Championship. Is this an Open Championship qualifying by chance?
No, not yet. We have Fitzy shot a 67, and Rasmus Højgaard is 12th, so well within range to just automatically qualify. He has to be 29th or better.
I saw somebody comment that the actual dream scenario that we need to revise from Wednesday is Rasmus T29, Fitzy win, and Bridgeman
Harry Hall win. Harry Hall.
Yeah, Harry Hall win. Harry Hall win.
Yeah, you have three guys for that'd be good. That'd be a perfect cluster. That's it for Whip Around. Let's close with some LIV Michigan. So LIV team event.
The Cardinal.
The team championship, the Cardinal at St. John's. I have very little information about this. We've talked about it when it first got announced. We got a lot of on-the-ground insight on exactly what's going on there. This will be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, noon on the Fox Sports app on Friday. Then on Big Fox at 2, Big Fox at 12 on Saturday, and Big Fox at 4:30 on Sunday for the finish with like FS1 before that. We've already, outlined Brooks's enthusiasm for his big heavyweight bout with DJ. So I don't know anything, doesn't matter. It will be team match play. This is the finale. I thought it was interesting. This is the 50th LIV event in its history. They made it to 50, which I'm not sure. I don't know. Would we have expected that? Not expected that? They're at 50.
Do you think they'll make it to 100?
If they're playing 13 events a year, that's a long time.
Didn't think it was going to make it to 50.
11 player. Do you think they'll make it to 100? I don't think so. Maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
I wonder about like how the economics of this change over time.
Well, if contracts run out.
If the big deals are done, could you foresee the Saudi Arabia just being like, let's just run this golf tour,
I mean, the HSBC deal has been touted a lot lately, but that's the banker for Yasser. Like, I'm going to take your money out of the bank, sponsor this golf. We'll see. I think they'll be around. I would say they're building momentum, but they're doing okay. I think on the ground, it sounds like they're doing fine. 11 players have played all 49 and now 50 events. Could you name some of them? Dick Blandy,
Stingers.
Sergio, Talor,
Charles.
Don't call me Taylor,
Hot Charles
and Louis, Kevin Na, the
Poulter.
decrepit Ironheads, Poltz,
Westwood.
Yep. Peter Uline has played all 50. Forgot about him. DJ has won. And Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones. Back then they didn't want me.
God, Matt Jones. I forgot he was there.
He's got all 50. They have like a record for most holes. Gooch, DJ, Joe. I don't know how that matters. Like playoff extra holes. 24 different players have won individual tournaments. Now that Bassi Munoz of those 50. Gooch.
I'm surprised you're not all over the 24. They're keeping very strict airtight records.
We have
here.
Real accounting.
I'm surprised that you are not. So over the moon about. We know exactly how many events. We know exactly how many holes. We know exactly how many winners. This is by the book.
I mean, what you could do if you want to make the case for 100 events, you could cite this as a huge competitive advantage for LIV, is that they have accurate historical bookkeeping.
Where do you think that falls on Rolapp's plate? You think it's high?
No, I don't think so.
I think it's probably low, because if you unwind everything, then you might damage TV ratings.
You're gonna find some things that you probably don't want to find.
Promotional impact. And someone messaged us about how Sam Snead lost like 38 starts between the 2005 media guide and the 2015 media guide. He's played in 38 less events or something like that.
Didn't lose any wins though.
No. I'd say this is a little bit of a bogus claim. In those 49, Taylor Gooch has lifted more trophies than anybody. No player has lifted more trophies across all competitions than Taylor Gooch, who's celebrated 13 wins.
Are they counting team wins?
Yes. And 3 team wins, 22 team championship with 4 aces. How many players do you think have played? Total players. 11 have played all 50. How many players do you think have dabbled? The Ben Campbell drop
78.
96 different players.
Whoa, that's way higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yep. 26 players have recorded at least 500 birdies. What a useless stat that is. How many courses in 50 events? do you think they've had? How many different courses? The Cardinal at St. John's is the 30th different course in 50 events. With Chicago and Miami.
Hour.
Chicago and Miami are the only ones to have hosted all 4 years. Those two. I think Miami's probably coming off with the Doral being Trump.
They went from Dick Harvest Farms to Bolingbrook.
Yeah, does that count? Dick Harvest Farms is Chicago proper. Anyways, we have the team championship. Up first, number 1 seed is Jon Rahm's Legion 13. And you get to pick who you want. Who do you call the carpet?
I would say this is categorically, I think, the best live event that exists.
It's gotten they had another format change. I'll talk about it in a second. But he called the cliques onto the carpet. Dick Bland versus Tyrrell Hatton.
Would have gone a different direction. Maybe the Magic Sticks.
So they had a play-in game yesterday. The Magic Sticks beat the Ironheads, who accrued 0 points the entire year. Just disaster. And I like, if I'm Poulter, Wesley, like, they're playing. It didn't look like there was a crowd there. It's just like this play-in game on a Wednesday in the middle of Michigan with nobody there. But the Magic Sticks beat the Ironheads, who are done. They're done for the season, can go home. But Magic Sticks dodge the Legion 13 group.
In all of your stats about 50 events, they didn't have the worst. They talked about Taylor lifting all the trophies.
Yeah.
The worst season in live history goes to the Ironheads.
Yep. Euban Jane and Freddie. Yeah. So the Crushers called the Magic Sticks onto the carpet. And so you got that. Aces Smash, as we talked about. I don't need to go through all the matches, but here's the format. You have an alt shot match for 1 point, so 2v2, and then two solo matches for 2 points. In prior years, they've given like the top seeds buys. Well, guess what? Giving the top seeds don't have to be present and accounted for kind of cuts into the point or product or allure of going. So everybody's got to play. So 6 matches, 6 matches on Friday, 6 on Saturday, 6 on Sunday. 12, all 12 teams in action. 3 winners on the 6 winners on Friday go to play each other on Saturday. Then the 3 winners of those 3 versus 3 matches on Saturday go into a top tier on Sunday. So there's 3 different tiers. That's where I think kind of gets a little convoluted. Is that fair?
I think what they're trying to do is avoid that, like, there's so few people on the golf course Yeah,
you got to get all 56 or guys out there or whatever. But it's just like, I don't know. I had to read it like 3 times this morning. I know I'm an idiot, and so maybe that's just me. But you have a championship tier, tier 2, tier 3, and then tier 4, which we could just call the Magic Sticks tier, which is, if you lose Friday and then you lose Saturday, you're just sorting for money there on the last. But that's all match. And then actually, I should say the final day is stroke play. So they go from the 1 alt shot match and the 2 solo matches to counting all 4 scores on Sunday for the finals.
Hey, you think Rahm is just a student of other sports, where we've seen kind of like this effect of a wild card team getting to play, get the jitters out, and then they come in hot and knock out the big teams, and that's why he opted to pass on playing the Magic Sticks? Do you think this is John? If you pose the question to Jon Rahm, he'd be like, "I was up last night,
climbing down from Mount Everest. I was on my way down, and I was thinking about
the 2023 Arizona Diamondbacks. Now they got super hot. Arizona, he's been there. I think he threw out the first pitch at some point.
Yeah, he did. He was in Arizona during that run.
There you go. He's familiar with how it works.
And that's why they opted for the cliques, your cliques, over the My Magic Sticks.
Dick Bland is going to put Tyrrell in his pocket and just roll the cliques out into the top tier.
We could start a Blandy for Ryder Cup controversy, depending on how this week goes.
Sure, we could. But that's LIV Michigan, the Cardinal at St. John. Kind of an interesting dynamic with match play the first 2 days, stroke play the last day, and picking your opponents there, at least at the start. Anything else? We want to do any golf advice? Move that to next week. We're at the hour or something mark. So I had a flashback too, all prepped. You know where the Tour Championship's gone before East Lake? You know what's included on its rota? We talk about how they need to move it out of East Lake. It's been at Southern Hills,
pretty
the Tour
good.
Championship, Olympic,
pretty
which
good.
we just watched, Pinehurst, number 2,
decent,
Pebble Beach, Harbor Town, a few other like Oak Hills in San Antonio,
cool
champions in Houston, Cypress Creek in Houston. So yeah, when you talk about a rotation, it's not like, their history's all made up and misaccounted for anyways, but you're not like abandoning history if you want to rotate. We're talking about
I just
Olympic
wanted
Pinehurst.
to ask you though.
Yeah.
Did you check with your history buddies to make sure that was accurate? Because it seems like we need to check with them on every tidbit of Cameron Young's history.
Oh, you're jamming me. You're trying to jam me here.
It seems like, they seem to be your purveyors of historical thought. And my question is, have you fact-checked this with them?
Look, my issue is they use history purely for promotional bullshit to create this Mr. 1000 promo narrative. That's all. And it's a house of cards.
You know who's going to be prepared with some history? I bet you Cameron Young will know exactly what number player he is in Ryder Cup history in a month. I know exactly. The Europeans have it all laid out. I'm sure Keegan has seen the hullabaloo around Mr. 1000 and has already started making his list. I'm sure we will know exactly what number it is.
All right. I think that does it. Everyone enjoy your weekends. We'll be back Monday to talk about the Super Bowl of golf. See if they have preferred lies. Let's see if the players start picking their own tee times maybe on the weekend when they want to play. They sign up on the sheet or something. We'll be back. Probably digest a little bit more of the Rolapp stuff. Talk Monday about the Tour Championship. Enjoy your weekends. Football's coming quick. Isn't it week 0 in college this week?
Yeah.
I think they got the Dublin game. So that'll be
Texas, Ohio State.
That's not this weekend. Next weekend. That's next weekend, I think.
K-State, Iowa State is the
incredible
game. Yeah,
got a bunch of people from Ames and Manhattan, Kansas, going to Dublin. That's confusing to me. But everyone enjoy your weekends. We'll be back with you on Monday.